Welcome back to the garage, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be working on Project Ethel, and more specifically we're going to make a decision about whether or not to weld up our front wheel drive rear engine differential. Now, a lot of you guys may be scratching your head if you haven't seen this car before, so let me show you what we're working with. This is Project Ethel. This is our 1975 Chevy Vega. It has been retrofitted with a rear engine V8 setup using a front wheel drive transmission from a 70s Toronado. We've already got our V8 Chevy built and tested. The next step was to take our transmission and peek inside and throw some new gaskets and seals at it to make sure we don't have a leak after we get this built. When we pulled the diff cover off, we immediately noticed we do have an open differential. So I don't know how safe or unsafe it would be, but I feel like if you're going to drive a car capable of doing wheelies, you want both wheels going at the same speed. But I can see where an argument could be made both ways. So today, I've decided to find out firsthand. We're going to weld up a differential, and we're going to drive it before and after and do a direct comparison to see if all those little quirks associated with the welded diff are really that bad, or if a poor man's posi is truly the way to go. I feel like one of the most common complaints I hear from guys that don't like welded diffs is they can't park them anywhere because they don't want to turn. So this is going to be one of the tests that I do once we get the diff welded, and that's backing into a parking spot. It still parks straighter than a BMW, huh? All right. Here's an important test: is will the car make a U-turn? Takes about 2 lanes, but it turns around. So now that I've established a baseline for what we're looking for between the U-turns and the parking and just general drivability, let's take it home, weld this diff up, and see what changes. So there's an interesting story about this diff cover on this car. I actually did the 5-speed swap and broke the rear end the first time I put it in gear. So didn't really have the funds to throw a 9-inch at it at the time. I went ahead and put this diff cover on there. It was a last-ditch effort to try to save this 7.5. Believe it or not, it's never had a problem since. All I did was put new bolt straps in it, new gear, new ring and pinion. It's been good. I beat the mess out of this car. All right, there's our spider gears. So what I've got to do is clean all this off in here, and we're going to weld these gears in 4 corners here, and then put the fluid back in it, and that's all it takes to make this bad boy posi. Welded up. The roads are a little bit wet. So far it's a little bindy around the corners. Nothing I can't really deal with though. So far so good. Straight line driving, piece of cake. We're about to pop a Yui here and see what this thing can do. Two lanes. There was some scootage, but it did it. So now I'm going to try backing into a parking spot. I've got a feeling it's not going to go as smooth as it did earlier, but only time will tell. Smooth enough for me. I don't see a reason I couldn't drive this to the store, especially for the occasional beer run. So it's getting a little late, getting a little dark outside. It's about time to head in. But one more thing I gotta show you guys about a welded differential, and that's the fun factor. So that's about enough horsing around with the Monte Carlo. Let's get back to Project Ethel, and more importantly, let me show you guys why I decided not to weld the differential. So last week when I took the differential cover off our final drive on our TH425, I stuck the axle stubs in there and just tried to see if I could turn them opposing directions, and I could. So I assumed I had a set of hypoid spider gears in there that just needed a quick little burn with the MIG welder to make posi. Turns out I couldn't have been more wrong. The more I dig into Project Ethel and look at how it was originally constructed, the more impressed I am with this original builder. I don't know that much about him, but one thing is for sure, he knew what he was doing. Instead of just throwing an Oldsmobile Toronado trans at it, he actually built a hybrid setup. This is a 71 transmission with a 1966 final drive. Now, I didn't know this, and I can barely find records of this on the internet, but it turns out a 1966 Toronado uses a planetary final drive. It's kind of weird, actually. I spent probably 4 hours a day trying to learn as much as I could about it. Turns out this kind of acts slightly like an LSD, or a limited slip differential. It's got to do with when you put torque on the input, it does kind of bind up and make both wheels pull. So it's kind of neat how it works. It sandwiches in like a clamshell and sits inside the carrier. So that's why it fooled me, and I thought I had an open diff, but it's a little more special than that. So I am definitely not going to be burning this thing with a welder. So what I'm going to do is put it all back together with some new seals and leave it alone. And if it gives me problems later, I'll deal with it later. But for right now, I think this is kind of a special part of the car. Somebody actually thought to do all this to make it just a little bit better. So today we've managed to beat up a Monte Carlo and learn something new about an Oldsmobile Toronado. And on that note, guys, I gotta end this video off right there. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.